Unlock the high returns of the expanding venture capital world right here on the Emerging Managers Podcast.
Welcome back to the Emerging Managers Podcast. My name is Scott Kelly. I'm your host and the founder and CEO of Black Dog Venture Partners. And I was really excited to have this interview with a friend I've known for several years, Jay Khanna. He's a veteran media executive, producer, and entrepreneur, and he's the founder of Victory Ventures, an investment firm and incubation platform partnering with celebrities and athletes to launch and scale consumer-facing brands. And yeah, he has a vast experience. He spent 22 years as a talent manager and producer at Burstein Entertainment. He led, built, and collaborated with A-list talent across film, television, sports, and culture. And during that time, he helped change and shape careers, package products, and work closely with athletes and artists to extend their influence beyond content into durable businesses. At Victory Ventures, Jay is applying that experience to identifying, backing, and building high-growth consumer brands alongside founders, creators, and strategic partners. His work sits at the intersection of storytelling and disciplined investing, with a focus on brands that have authentic voices, cultural relevance, and long-term stability. So I encourage you, as you listen to this, understand this is a person who has filmed great episodes that you can find in all streaming networks. He's constantly in Variety magazine, but now he's taken the skills as a talented executive and producer in the entertainment field, and not only creating great content, but creating great brands and investing in those great athlete and entertainment-based brands. So give a listen, and I'll come back with my outtakes and key points. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Scott Kelly, the founder and CEO of Black Dog Venture Partners and your host for the Emerging Managers Podcast. I'm really excited to bring on a friend I've known for a while who launched his new fund, Jay Khanna of Victory Ventures. Welcome, Jay.
Thanks, Scott. Good to be with you. Yeah.
Before we get into that, you've got a prolific background in the film and entertainment industry. Maybe share a bit of your background before you decided to launch Victory Ventures.
Yeah, of course. I've been in the entertainment media space for probably the past 25 plus years, mostly as a talent manager. So for 22 years at a firm called Burstein, used to be called Burstein Gray, now Burstein Entertainment Partners. So that's been my foundation. I was there for 21 plus years. So that informs a lot of my background, my resources, my thinking. It's a talent management firm at the core of it. So representing A-list talent, curating content, helping map out strategy, plans, long-term goals for clients, and to the credit of the company, they have an immense track record. So
we're fortunate to be a part of that, but that informs my world. So I deal a lot
at the intersection with talent, very intimately with more specifically actors and athletes, and then also a lot of content creation that we've done for a long time. So yeah.
Let's talk about the content creation. You're involved in two intersections of things I'm really big fans of: sports and entertainment. So obviously you launched Victory Media, and you've been featuring some of the most prolific athletes in the history of sports. Share a little bit more about what you're doing there, what you have done there.
Yeah, I'll tell you. So we're always looking at what's happening in the marketplace. So that really informs. And I've come from a traditional content curation kind of mindset of scripted TV shows and films, all and around a lot of A-list stars and all different genres in comedy. Come to COVID, had hit the marketplace, and the strikes, the actor strike and the writer strike that hit in 2021. And that forced us to pivot a little bit into still our skill set of storytelling. What is the audience looking for? What are the buyers looking for? And sports came to us as, again, something that not going anywhere. It's a unifier in sports, I think, amongst all the noise. I think we can admittedly say, and I'm a part of it, that there's a lot to watch out there. And we're probably still scrolling endlessly, and we still can't find something to watch. But sports in particular, which I love, it's not a new concept, but it just rose out of everything here a little bit over the past couple of years of just, okay, with all the noise out there, maybe in the world and politics and race and everything, here's a unifier. And so sports stories is something that we went all in on.
We talked to all the buyers and streamers and said, hey, this is what our audience wants. This is what they're gravitating towards.
a husband and a wife can sit down and watch together, and they can watch with their kids. So it checked off a lot of boxes. So we went all in. But again, that pulls a lot of our resources on. You still have to tell a great story. You still have to do that. So that's where, and I'm the audience for all this stuff. So the sports, we say sports is, it's not about the sport. These are all human interest stories. Sports is there as the backdrop, but something which we can relate to. So that's where we went all in. Maybe it's where I'm at in life too, of these stories all have great themes to them, inspiring, overcoming obstacles, chasing your dreams, all these things that pertain to everybody. So that's where we shifted and pivoted to doing that. We've been doing that very well for the last 3-4 years, and we'll hop into, but that's kind of started to give us a lot more access, not just with actors who I already had that access with, but just with athletes. Yeah.
And you obviously have been in the media entertainment space for a long time, and you've obviously seen a lot of changes. So maybe kind of give us your perspective on where you see, the distribution of media, obviously from going to the theaters to watching streaming to
100%.
watching TikTok. Where do you see the industry? What's the good, bad, and the future?
Yeah, we all talk about this. I mean, again, I've gotten a little bit more clear about it and a little bit more simplistic. Content isn't going anywhere. We say this. I don't think people are going to watch. They're going to watch content. Now, how they watch it is going to keep evolving, and all that is a little bit out of our hands in terms of whether you go to a movie theater. And I'm guilty of it. I couldn't tell you when I went to a movie theater last, because our home systems are so good now, right? We can sit home and we can upgrade those. And then here comes social media, and every person essentially has their own channel. You can curate your own channel, you can create your own channel, launch your own channel, YouTube and all that. So it's a little overwhelming. I think that kind of all the dust will settle. The more interesting, the more compelling content and people and influencers, I think those guys will rise to the top. But yeah, it's a little bit of the Wild West, but for our purposes and our business, which isn't going anywhere, again, you still have to tell great stories. It still has to be premium level content. And that's the world that we live in. It's the only world I know. So we don't create content for YouTube necessarily. I appreciate that it's a platform for everybody. We want to hit home runs. So our goal is to get as many eyeballs on what we're doing, whether it's a scripted, whether it's a documentary. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. You're seeing you're seeing some consolidation. Obviously, the Warner Brothers and Netflix, Skydance, Paramount. I think that's just changing of the guard. I've been around a long time to see this. Amazon did it with MGM. I don't think anyone's talking about that anymore. It kind of came and went, but Amazon acquired MGM, which was a big move, And now, so it's fine. I don't subscribe to necessarily just all the doom and gloom of what's going on here. I do think it just raises the bar for us of what we're doing, and we hear this from all the buyers and our partners, and we challenge the content creators. What's unique about it? What is different? What is compelling about it? But yeah, I think I don't have a crystal ball. This is what we do. We're not going anywhere, so we're just having to adapt. To be honest with you,
right.
But but it's fascinating to me. I think essentially social media gave everyone their own channel, right? I'm not sure if everyone warrants their own channel, but but essentially gave everyone a channel. Now they're curating their own form of content, and so it's it is interesting and tricky, and we'll see how it kind of evolves. But I could probably ask you the same, and maybe as a parent. I think kids are watching YouTube. I'm not sure if most people are watching streamers, right? I mean,
it's really interesting. At my home, we had, I think, 8 TVs, 90 inches all the way down to, the 75-inch TVs, each of my boys' rooms. And they would have the TV off and just be sitting there on their phone constantly, just watching it on their phone. And I was, as an older person, I was just flabbergasted. We have this beautiful screen, this whole surround sound, and you're watching on your phone. And so it is interesting how, the creation and the consumption of content has been really.
I think that's a challenging part. Yeah. And almost discouraging a little bit, but we have to keep it. We can't get too down the rabbit hole. But the quality of what we want to output, we expect it to live on a larger screen, right? But ultimately, someone's watching on a phone. It kind of breaks your heart a little bit.
Yeah.
In terms of people don't realize when that scene or the whole crew behind and how well it was lit or these things like that. So we'll see. I think it'll come back around. I think there's going to be, we talk about this, just the watching it amongst others and watching it in an environment, right, that is very experiential. We keep talking a lot about that. I think it's just going to have to be, it's going to have to be really special for all of us to have to go out to movie theater,
Right. Exactly. It's got to be worth it. It's got to be worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I want to touch on the venture side in just a couple minutes, but I want to spend a few more minutes on the success on the media side. So you obviously talk about, content, your relationship with athletes and entertainers. Talk about how you're getting this content. How are you getting these great stories? And maybe share some of the recent stories that you've put out that have been great.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's from our network, obviously, I think, which is nice to be at a certain place in career. And with the business changing and people working remote and some newcomers coming in and agencies merging, I think a lot of us who've been around for a long time, and we did our work in terms of all the relationships that we needed to foster at that time. I'm sure you did as well, like all the breakfast, lunch, and drinks which we don't want to be doing anymore, but all the stuff that we did for 20 plus years to build a great network. So now that's the network now. So all of my friends, to their credit, doing very well, high profile managers, run streaming networks. And so it's really interesting. And I would say COVID, to come back to that, when people weren't able to actually meet and introduce themselves and network, kind of became this really interesting access of information just amongst people that we liked and trusted and said, hey, here's what I got. I know you. Here's what we're thinking about. What do you think? So, but that's half of it. A little bit of that sense of, it's taken some time to get to that place that a lot of it's about trust. And cliche, we always say everyone is a producer, like just everywhere. And, and everyone's got a script and everyone's got a deck and all these things like that. But I think where we sit uniquely, we're in the trenches. I've been in LA, my partners have all been in LA, and this is where we are. And we do meet and we sit there and we go into the offices and do all that. And so the information, the access is it's still here and it is unique. I would say the stories and things that have come, honestly, I think it's a little bit of a changing of the times. I would say with sports, athletes recognize their voice as valuable. I think that's changed a lot. I think social media, obviously, we go back to, if we go back to athletes like Jordan and guys who didn't have social media and the impact that they made. And I think this next generation, it's not even this next, but ongoing for a while, these athletes recognize they have a powerful platform and voice. And athletes are very unique because of kind of how authentic they are, as opposed to actors, right? Like we all don't know actors very well. We see them play a role, and then it's a matter of, hey, how much are they going to share with us or not? Athletes in particular are very authentic to a fault because we see them play, we see their emotions, and we're all a part of maybe just that moment in history of sports too, of something that really kind of resonates with us. So anyways, what's happened, I think, and to the credit of athletes and a way for them to connect with their fan base even further is, hey, there's stories that these guys want to tell. These guys want to open up a lot more about what happened during that moment or something that happened in their work or on their team and things. What we always say is we're interested in those stories of what happened off the field, right? Like what happened off the court. You and I can watch highlights all day long on YouTube. All the highlights are there of all these guys as pros. But I think what became very interesting, and I think there was just a bigger interest, and it goes into what we're talking about, even why they're creating brands, of just this authenticity with just their fan base and wanting them to connect really with their audience. And so that's where there's a lot of incoming calls, honestly, which we get from agents and athletes and others about wanting to tell their stories. Now, our job is to vet a little bit more, okay, what's worthwhile, right? And kind of why now? And there's a little bit of a thing of jokingly, it's not hard to get an athlete on a Zoom because there's a little bit of an ego thing here now too, of everyone wants to tell their story, which is fair enough. Our job is a little bit on the other half of it to kind of counterbalance, okay, what's going to be interesting? What's going to be an interesting story? What are we learning? Why now? All these things that we talk about. But that's what's been great, by the way. There's been stories that have come back previously a while back of just either some moment in sports history, which we all grew up with, which we remember, and want to tell that story, and it brings out a certain emotion from us. So we don't necessarily have to get those incoming calls, or there's not even a lot of outreach. These stories are out there. It's kind of, it's actually been a lot of fun. You and I could chat about sports since that It could be. I think sports has changed a lot. It doesn't have to be just about the A-list guys, Jordan and Kobe and Tom Brady and the GOATs. Now it's sports includes telling some stories about sports true crime that's happening. Women's sports, sports culture, sports fashion. So there's a lot of, that's what's been great, by the way. And again, with ESPN has been handling the space extremely well for years. I think it just opened up outside of everyone wants to do what they were doing at that moment, where it was just a niche of just sports fans. But yeah, no, the story. So we've gotten a lot, and we're doing one right now with the Seattle Seahawks team. Just as an example, this story came to us. It's a beautiful, inspiring story about when the team was going to move, and this happened in the '90s. And it's a story which we didn't know about. So someone had kind of brought it, and there was such an uproar amongst the fans in Seattle as a city to want to keep their team there. And that to us scratched the surface of it speaks to other things going on about all these teams which relocate, right? So and again, I'm from Oakland. So when the Oakland Raiders are gone, Oakland A's are gone. These are teams that
you know that firsthand.
yeah. And I think it's so. Anyways, just to share with you how we're looking at things of like, okay, not just what happened in a moment in time in Seattle, but that story is about sports and how important it is to people who live there and how important it was to be able to stop that move. So it's a pretty amazing story, but also it hit us on all the teams relocating and this and that, and how much it does affect maybe stories you'll have with your son on a team that you grew up with, which isn't there anymore, or these jerseys that we all wear of a team. So there's things like that we're doing. We've got some A-list athletes that we're profiling, which I can't quite talk about yet. And those are stories about, again, not just their on-field accomplishments, but we've chosen athletes who, what are they doing off the field? And there's a lot people don't know. And it's very inspiring, or it tells a story there that people can learn from a lot, but also people that are huge fans of these athletes, just to get re-engaged, reconnected. But I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but yeah, the athletes getting these stories, we talk about it constantly. Right now, there's things that we're looking at. We're looking at some books and some stories that maybe some journalists have wrote, and that helps maybe create an outline that helps us create an outline for maybe a series or a doc. And sometimes one athlete or one subject, it doesn't warrant an entire film. Maybe it's one episode of a series of things. So these are things we're kind of working through and challenging ourselves, and how the industry is changing a little bit, on which we'll get into, but just the short attention span too, by the way. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the next piece. Obviously, Victory Ventures. You mentioned on social media very recently, and I decided to jump on it right away, that you are going to take all your experience from the management side and the content creation side and launch Victory Ventures. Share a little bit about the rationale, the thesis, and the idea behind that.
Sure. Yeah, and we've been doing this for a while, by the way. We've just been doing it quietly. And as a manager, this has been going on for a while, by the way, in our business. So when you're a talent manager, you sit very closely aligned with talent. You have those intimate conversations. You're mapping out strategy, long-term goals. What do you want to be doing? And so this goes way back. I mean, honestly, now we've gotten to a point of actually including more athletes because of our access to all the sports content. But it's just been, and also hearing this as well with brands. There's an ongoing challenge with brands. Obviously, advertising is tricky. How do they get their brands out there? So the collaboration with celebrity, talent, athletes, influencers, not a new model, but I would say where we stand apart, and I think the audience is very sophisticated. They know when a celebrity is just on as an endorser, right? As opposed to someone who's a genuine owner, founder, roll up your sleeves, you take the risk. And I would say that's our value add of knowing the ones that are actually going to do the work, because there's a lot who talk about it, right? So they have a lot who want to do it, but they're not wired that way, but like, they're genuinely not wired. You would think the A-list of the A-list want to do it, say they want to do it, but maybe that's just not what keeps them going. It's a pain in the ass. There's just things that they're just not going to be end up, as opposed to others truly admiring. You see it and it pays off because they're actually doing the work. They crave it. They're in the trenches. They're in the weeds on how to get a business off the ground. So I think it just became more clear the more access we have, and we sit in a very unique spot. When you're a content creator, you're dealing with talent in a very intimate way. And we're dealing with them, to be honest with you, outside of all the noise. I'm not having to deal with their reps and their advisors and people like that in a way, which we will eventually. But there's a very, very unique spot to hear very authentically, what does someone want to do? What are they willing to do? How much are they willing to invest? What is their roadmap, and what support do these guys need? And so that's a lot of what we're kind of hit over the head with, a little bit of it. And I think it sits, because we don't sit as outsiders. I think it's harder for outsiders. Hey, you hope someone curates all this, right?
Right.
If it's you as an investor or others, you hope you curate it. Great, here comes a deck, and we're raising X amount. We sit in a very kind of early stage, and the things that we want to invest into, we genuinely feel like there's been a lot of work done, and there's been a lot of assessment to have a lot of confidence that, hey, this is worthwhile, that we see an exit on this. And so that's what started this. And we're seeing it a lot in certain, in the wellness space, on the beauty space, obviously the alcohol, that kind of lane of what clients are doing. But I think where we do sit, and we are humble in the sense that we do take things slower, we're more strategic. And I think there is a little bit of an impression, there's so much out there, right? I think there's a lot of noise, every A-list actor has their vodka brand or has their tequila brand.
Right. Exactly.
And we get it. And I think the consumers are smart. I think that stuff will start to settle down. We've been really good to kind of say, hey, let's really roll up our sleeves with a few folks, and so the intel we're getting is very interesting. It's very valuable. It's prior to it getting out there, and I think I'm much more sensitive to this. It's prior to getting out there where it does get a little convoluted. There's more noise. There's more voices in there. I think that we're very sensitive of how do we, how can we kind of continue with our thesis without just the noise and the hype. And for us, it's a business. Like, it's not a hobby,
So when you're investing with these brands, whether it be athletes or actors or some combination, are there particular industries that you are focusing on, industries you're staying away from?
No, not necessarily. It's kind of, we're looking at something, for example, with Snoop Dogg, and he has an ice cream brand that he's working on and launching, and he's been very successful at it. It came to us from just one of our partners, and it's been around for maybe a year or two and doing well. I mean, there's you look at, like, you wouldn't think that, right? You wouldn't think that wouldn't be an organic connection. But I would say we're not staying away from anything. It really is the talent, and really, really, what are they willing to do, and how much are they championing this, and how organic is it to them and their lifestyle, and how much are they willing to really, for it to be a very genuine part. He's a huge ice cream. I didn't know this. I think the ice cream folks, people all know, he's a huge connoisseur. So you don't rule out. I think the talent can have a lot of different interests. It doesn't have to be just vodka, right? It doesn't have to be just the main. They could be launching something, but I think it's. I don't think there's anything to stay away from. That would be short-sighted on our part of it. It's really looking at what checks off the boxes of, even if it's an actress, she's launching some hair care line or some product there. You look at the fact of, an A-list premium actress. You would think that space is okay. It's completely saturated. And yet, but you take a step back and you see someone, it's their first entry into this, that they've never done this before. There's something about it. It's very new and fresh and very authentic. If she had done a handful of other ones previously, it's not that interesting.
Right.
And then you see, she's invested like a lot of her own money into it. And there's other aspects of it being environmentally and all these other things that people will now obviously take into consideration. But yeah, no, I would say, I think that our job, it goes back to, again, to vet. Industry is not really to stay clear of, and we're not going to just jump off of hype. It's not about, there is stuff that's great out there, and I'm sure it works. And you got The Rock and Ryan Reynolds and Kevin Hart and all these people do great stuff. And those guys are off to the races. But I think I think we're much more sophisticated to, let's look at the talent as an owner and as a founder. And is this someone that's going to roll up their sleeves? Yeah.
Well, where does management play in? Where does, because obviously as an investor, You want to get a return of your capital and return on your capital. What other things do you look at the rest of the team? Is it just you help build the team around it? Did they come in with a team?
100%. Yeah, no, it's all the above. That's what I was going to. Yeah, I was going to say like that's a big key component about it. In terms, and we don't come in at at the seed level of it. So there's our partners and others and people that we will introduce some of the talent to and the athletes to help get this off the ground and create that team. I'm with you. Well, we're not wired that way. It's a very calculated risk. We'll see a lot of other investors already in. We'll see them circling. That gives us, it's a great endorsement. We know what we don't know. If there's some momentum building and there's tangible, we don't have a crystal ball. And again, we don't go off of hype. It's not what this could be. Trust me, that's not a business model. But no, absolutely. With the team is interesting. Traction is interesting. Their own personal investment. It's been interesting to check off these boxes. It's a very easy way for us to look at, because some brands will come to them, of course, and have them like white label all day long, which that's something which we've seen a lot. And that's fine. It's at no cost. You give the talent a percentage, a big fee. If it fails, it fails. It's no harm to anybody. Right. So we're very in tune to what of maybe what's happened. And I would say from the consumer side of it, I think it's just, we look at it from that side of it, not just as investors, but as consumers. It gives me a lot of confidence when I see other investors into it. When I'm seeing someone already starting to map out sales and distribution, and they're already in certain stores, or look at these X number of investors that are already in. So absolutely, to answer your, I can't get into too specific on certain ones, but as soon as you see a list and names and you're like, okay, check. And then you see that person themselves, which is really what we want to see. We want to see them invest. We want to see them invest themselves. Right. It's not just their name. I mean, I think maybe we're a little bit more of like, we want them to put some skin in the game, as everybody says. And I like that. And I think you will see a lot more talent doing that, or has been doing that. And that has kind of raised the bar from others who are just like, hey, I'm not going to hire me and use my name. And that has a value to it, as opposed to others who are like, hey, no, I'm going to put in X millions of dollars to get this off. And you could probably speak to that too. I like that. It sounds right to me. I think, again, the hype and the Hollywoodness of it's over. People know stars and everything, but it's not so enamored anymore. It's kind of like, okay, how long are you going to hang with this? I think that was always the case too. Like, yeah, you see a client, they're along with a product for 6 months and they're gone. Right. And the audience would say, hey, what happened? Well, that was it was just like, she got paid just as an endorsement deal. Sure. So an endorsement deal, I don't think this is what we're trying to kind of separate endorsement into ownership. All the endorsement stuff is still happening out there. You're seeing influencers will endorse anything. Celebs, if you get paid enough, you'll endorse it. Right. That's not our lane. So it's very much, so if that answers your question, it's been looking at the teams and very much, and how strategic, and also they're talking about exit, which is important for us, that they're talking about exit. That's nothing. It's not, hey, it's not, yeah, we'll keep you posted, Right. No, it's really important. I tell people all the time, getting the money in is the easy part. Taking the money out is always the more challenging part. So yeah, obviously, you always have to look at the exit in mind. So a lot of our listeners are investors in venture. They are high net worth individuals, family offices, wealth managers, and the like. Let's talk to them for a minute. So for the sake of, you obviously have Victory Media, and you've gotten a lot of investors to participate in that. Maybe share about who the makeup is, not by name, but the makeup of the investors in Victory Media first. Yeah, sure. Who would be another ideal investor? And then we'll jump to the venture side. Well, the Victory Media sports side of it, and it's been great. We've been very fortunate. Investors, and again, I think I sit at a certain place of, there's a quality to investor now, right? Maybe when we're younger, you represent and work with people and you kind of have to swallow certain things.
Sure.
Now being at a stage, it really is a quality investor. But no, all jokes aside, what's been fun, and I say I'll profile, which is, I'm being selfish about this. You want people who love sports, like that's been a lot of fun for us to work with them who genuinely love sports. I think if you're going to invest in any of our business, in movies, entertainment, there has to be an emotional. This is not, the ROIs are there. People can make money in other businesses, and we get it. our strategies are very risk adverse. We're not reinventing anything. We've got we have everything all mapped out and the ROIs and things like that. So we check off all the boxes and in that sense of it. But the investors that we currently have in Victory Media and that we're kind of out with another round, I mean, it's the ones that recognize the importance of sports, of wanting to tell these stories. But our goal, very simply, we don't speak of them as kind of sports docs content. These are assets. So we're essentially creating a library of sports content, and sports of all things compared to any other genre, sports, that it's evergreen. So these stories will endure. These sports stories are not necessarily, kind of one and done. So that's what our investors have liked of, hey, we're going to kind of create all these assets in a library, and this library is going to have a valuation. And here comes Apple's going to say, hey, we want this on our platform. We're going to grab your library. So it's a very clear roadmap. Again, we're not reinventing, but that's our home run play here. Sure. And so the investor profile, we do a lot of high net worths. We deal with family offices. The play is just more long-term play. We're not, because of just kind of when we output content and what comes back in, we probably do a handful of sports docs a year. And for this next year, we'll probably do about 8 to 10 in a year. One will be a home run, one will break even, one won't work. It's just a portfolio. But the investors who we have, who I'm a big fan of, and they're genuinely sports fans. So I think it's a lot of fun when we have these conversations. It's not just investing. Investing is easy and we'll handle that. But we can actually also talk about ideas and concepts in sports. And I think that, so we've attracted investors who obviously want to cherry pick certain stories,
Right.
We try not for that to be the case because you want to create an engine.
Sure.
And yet, but we're working at a very high level. And I would say too, the investors have the similar interests as us. So we're hitting all the major sports. We're not doing too much of the niche stories. So we're doing NFL, NBA, MLB, hockey, soccer, F1. Like that's it. There's a lot of great stories around other things, cricket and lacrosse and pickleball. Sure. Everyone's got great, but we have to push back. There's not an audience for that in terms of sales necessarily. But but that's, and we've had investors who smaller investments or something larger, but we really want them to be excited about that. This is a library that we're creating, and any of these streamers, it's not going anywhere.
Now on the venture side of it, the venture capital side of it, with the brand investment, are these the same investors? Are they a different group of investors? What's that makeup look like?
No, those investors, I would say, are not the same. There are a couple that we took an interest. No, these are traditional investors. The profile is, and at least our role, again, we do invest in these. We place some smaller investments, so it's a little bit more accessible, which is what.
Right.
And so that means, okay, our role in these companies as a VC is somewhat passive, which at the start, which is okay for us. We're fine for it. We have eyes on it. We have trusted people on it. We want to be a part of the upside of this. So it's a little bit of that mentality from investors of like, let's get our hands in these. And we've created smart teams around it, and we've checked off the boxes. And I think the other thing, maybe I would say it depends on the size of investment, right?
Sure.
Which is something you'll know. If it's a smaller investment, we're fine with it. If it's a larger, okay, you warrant some seats, you warrant some voting rights. So, but it's been, I think it's been completely different. It's not just about sports. So this is really about brands, advertising. This is a whole different space. And yet, we're just saying, hey, we're going to bring an A-list actress. We're going to bring an athlete to the table who's doing something, a musician who's doing something. Now let's check off the boxes. And is this a ride that we want to be a part of?
Right.
And I would say, but again, to emphasize, we've made our check sizes intentionally smaller. And maybe if that's good for newer investors, just the accessibility of it. Sure. I feel like, and I think we represent a very unique entry point into these. So we'll have those conversations on these larger check sizes, but we're also, there's no issue of raising, to to be honest
Right.
with you. With these type of names and brands, these guys are
Right.
off to the races. We have a small
Sure.
windows that we show these. So I'm not sure if
Sure.
I sent you a couple things, maybe they're open for a month and they
Right.
get filled up. So it's a little bit, I think, trying to find ideally people who get it,
Right.
who kind of move fairly quickly. It's a smaller risk
Mhm.
type of investment. And so I think in success will evolve into something bigger and
Right.
and just much fancier. But I think, yeah, but to your point, we also curate content. So that helps us get access to a lot of this information.
Sure.
So
Sure.
yeah.
Well, so I like to close with this question to everybody. For people listening in that are considering investing in either with
Yeah.
Victory Media, Victory Ventures, why? And I'll ask you from both sides. Why Victory Media and why now? And why Victory Ventures and why now?
For Victory Media on the sports side of it, why now? Sports content is it's the unifier. If you're going to invest in the content, I would say.
Right.
So that's the first. Someone has to be interested in
Right.
our space. But if you're going to invest into content, of all things to invest into, whether it's a feature film, a television show, other things like this, I would strongly encourage, and there's enough information out there, that with sports is the one thing that here is rising to the surface. It is the unifier. It's crossing all different lines and boundaries. We're in a space of curating sports content, which will support just where our industry is going. And you'll see everyone's chasing sports rights. Everyone wants to be a team owner. That stuff is all in our world. We deal with team owners who want to shine a light on their teams. We're curating content for them. So I would just say, like, why now? It's like, that's all it is. It's a very interesting time in the zeitgeist of content. There's so much stuff out there. There's so many different voices and styles and platforms and mediums. But there's one common thing that we gravitate towards. The one thing that you can't binge, one thing you can't record, is sports. So that's what I would say. I think we're uniquely structured as being intentionally lean, as opposed to some other companies. And there's room for all of us. We're not adversarial in our business, so we do a lot with our competitors. But I'd say, why us now? We're a very unique entry point of doing the last 2-3 years without any conflicts of interest, without any kind of issues. And in due time and success, as we get larger, the investments into the company get more complicated. So I would say now is a good time if someone's interested and happy to walk them through what that looks like and the ROIs and structures and how we do stuff and how we look at projects and what triggers, what has to check off in terms of a green light. On the fun side of it, I just think we sit in a unique place of just authenticity. I think there's a part of, as I led with, of just the celebrities and athletes. Our job is to kind of come to the investor after doing a lot of this homework, of doing that due diligence. And I think there are firms and there are people doing it very well who invest in these companies. There's some that sit on the outside and there's some that sit on the inside, and they all have great different, all unique track records. I think what we're saying is we sit very uniquely on the inside. It's a very interesting space that, to be honest with you, I take for granted, which I really do, because, we're in the trenches, we're just doing our job. And then here I am on set with somebody, an A-list athlete, talking about some brand or some product that he loves, that he's going to go do this. And that's what started to hit us, that we're waking up a little bit and saying, so that information, I would come back to our team and saying, X Hall of Famer, that we're doing a great story with him. This information is valuable, just this intel is valuable. So I think there's a little bit of kind of why us. I think it's interesting. I go back to being content creators. If you're a traditional fund, you sit on the outside, you kind of curate this. Because of our trust and our track record, we sit with them in a very intimate space, talking about other interests, right? Other things that these guys want to be doing. And so I think that's what we can bring back of like, hey, we've done the homework, and I'm talking about, and I'm going to share someone like Snoop as an example because of X, Y, and Z, not because it's just Snoop, not because it's hype, not because it's anything. Hey, there's a reason why we think this is going to have legs. And so, that's that I would say, and that intel's not going to go anywhere, because our job is, there's relationships we're going to keep fostering, there's content we're going to keep creating. So we're going to hear things from everybody. All we've done here is saying, hey, how do we now start to share this intel?
Right.
Really just with others and you and all this stuff too, which, happy to have this interest. That's where we kind of started to share this a little bit, because we've shared it already with our core friends and family and network, and everyone's done really well. And that's what prompted us to say, hey, let's open this up a little bit, because your interest, which I appreciate, that's really, it's for people that maybe are not seeing this information or just not seeing this deal flow. That we're happy to kind of start to include them in our network.
That's fantastic. So where can people learn more about Victory Media, Victory Ventures, and get in contact with yourself?
Yeah. Our website, or actually more than anything on my LinkedIn is where I'm active. Maybe that will be posted here. Yep. But that's probably it's the most active of really kind of engaging, and kind of our network is there, and our and our clients and investors are also on that platform. That it's become very effective. Yeah.
Any final thoughts you want to share with our listeners today?
No, man, I'm good. I appreciate this. We'll keep talking. This is all.
My pleasure.
This is all work in progress. I appreciate your interest, and I'm going to rope you into a few of these things too.
Looking forward to it. Well, everyone listening today, make sure you like, comment, follow this podcast, and check out what Jay's up to. We'll have information to share on the website, Emerging Managers Podcast. And Jay, thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks, man. Thanks, brother. I'll talk to you soon. All right. Take care.
Welcome back. The one thing that I was really in agreement with when I was speaking to Jay from Victory Ventures is that sports content is a unifier, and it's evergreen in the marketplace. I love watching stories about great athletes and great people that have overcome and excelled. And then his strategy is to create this library of sports assets with a clear roadmap for valuation and acquisition by streamers. And he's had significant luck in doing that. From the production standpoint, he's targeting, investors that are high net worth individuals, family offices who recognize the importance of sports and interest in the long-term play. He's been focusing on the major sports such as the NFL, NBA, MLB, hockey, soccer, and F1 that have a larger audience for sales. In order to be considered an investment, the talent must be genuine, and the founder and the brand should be engaged, not just an endorser. So what Jay has done, he's taken the great work he's done working with these athletes and celebrities, and he started out with great content, and now he's helping them take their name, their brand, and their awareness to create their opportunities to invest in the brands that they start. And the one thing that was really intriguing, and we talked about this at length, is that a lot of celebrities, a lot of athletes simply put their name on a product, and they're not actively involved. And his philosophy is be with that talent that are genuine. They're an owner and the founder of the brand. These founders should be prepared to invest their own money, put some skin in the game as a signal of commitment. So what I hope you get from this interview, and when you reach out to Jay on social and reach out to him on his website and find his content on Netflix and other streaming networks, you're going to see someone who is taking his vast experience and talent, creating great, enduring product and content with these celebrities and athletes, and extending one step further by helping these celebrities and athletes build really investable brands with companies that they're not simply an endorser, but they're a founder and they have skin in the game. So I encourage you to listen to this podcast and share it with your friends, like, comment, and share, and follow us on the Emerging Managers Podcast at Emerging Managers Podcast and all streaming networks. And I'll see you next time on the Emerging Managers Podcast.
Join Scott Kelly, Tracy Hazard, and their high-performing capital fund manager guest next week on the Emerging Managers Podcast. Don't miss our upcoming virtual and live VC Fast Pitch and podcast events. For more details, background on our guests, or an application to be our next guest, visit emergingmanagerspodcast.com. Don't miss out on shaping the future of venture capital and entrepreneurship with us by joining our robust community of innovators and investors today.